We're going to have a lot on this throughout the show, and now for more on preparations on the ground in Nova Scotia, we're going to turn to Halifax Mayor Mike Savage. Well, Mayor Savage, Hurricane Fiona is on its way, and unfortunately, Halifax is right in its way. How ready is your city for this storm?
Well, I think, David, you know Atlantic storms. I'm sure you've seen quite a few in your day, and you know what they can do to coastal communities. So our folks have been working hard, and what's really impressive is the coordination between all the different orders of government, plus all the other organizations, Nova Scotia Power, Red Cross, Hurricane Centre, Environment Canada. There's a great deal of coordination. A great deal of work has gone in. I'm at the Emergency Operations Centre now. It's just a buzz of activity from all different orders of government and agencies. It's impressive to see. This storm is going to hit us. Exactly how hard, it still changes sort of hour to hour, but we're going to have significant impacts, and there's no excuse not to be ready, and I think we are as ready as can be.
We've each seen a lot of storms, but each one's different, right? So I know you've got the playbook for your preparations, but what concerns you the most right now about Fiona?
So I think it's always the storm surge. We're looking at massive waves hitting the shore here and all the way up through northern Nova Scotia and through to our friends in Cape Breton, who will be hit very hard. And so storm surge has the potential to do huge damage. It did in Dorian a few years ago, as well as in Vaughan. Have a particular concern about people who are homeless. We've been moving people all afternoon from encampment sites, which we have provided. We've provided transportation to get them to safe locations where they will be warm and dry, where we will feed folks as well. And there's always some people out there that you don't know about who may be older or less mobile that haven't been able to get as ready for this storm. And I think, as you know, the Atlantic tradition is we take care of each other, we look in on our neighbors, we help each other out. But you always worry that there's somebody out there that we don't know about who's not quite ready for the storm.
You mentioned the storm surge. Is there anything specific you can do to prepare for that? I mean, other than like having your infrastructure built up in anticipation of it, but is there any sort of specific action you can take as a coastal city to deal with these types of storm surges that you're expecting?
Well, I think we all know that these storms have become much more frequent. It used to be, David, that those of us in Atlantic Canada would look at storms gathering in the Caribbean and come up the east coast of the U.S. They generally sort of petered out as they hit the colder water before they came to us. A couple of exceptions, Hurricane Beth in the 70s, I remember as a kid. I certainly won in 2004. But these are more regular, and the volatility of the weather is dangerous. So in Halifax, for example, we have a very aggressive and I think impressive climate action plan around mitigation and adaptation for our communities, and working with the federal and provincial governments is really important. One of the things that's really an immediate concern is that people shouldn't be doing foolish things. They shouldn't be running out to get a picture right on the edge of the ocean. They shouldn't be going to Peggy's Cove where we've had tragedies before. People should use their common sense. Stay inside. We're used to this. You hunker down, you get it done, and do everything you can to prepare. Hope it's not as bad as it could be, but be prepared if it is.
You mentioned Dorian from 2019, and in that storm, Nova Scotia Power saw its largest outage ever after a hurricane. Have you got a sense whether that electricity infrastructure is more resilient and if you're better prepared this time?
I believe so. Nova Scotia Power was part of a press conference we did yesterday. I'm getting regular texts from a lot of people at Nova Scotia Power, from the president on down, just telling us that they've done things to be ready for this. Any utility in North America is going to have outages. People need to expect that. So people need to expect a few things. We're going to have some power outages. The wind just means that it's inevitable that that's going to happen. We have full trees full of leaves, and the wind is going to blow those down and going to cause some problems. We're going to lose trees are going to come, down in this storm as well. I think after Dorian, there was a lot of reflection on, power, on cell phone towers, on construction safety and all those things. There's no perfect solution. When it comes to a storm like this, there is no perfect, but there is better. And I think we're getting better and better all the time.
I wonder, though, Mayor, if, after Dorian we had the pandemic and a lot of things didn't get done because of COVID. I mean, are there repairs and preparations that maybe got delayed or didn't quite get done to the level you were hoping because of just the restrictions around COVID?
Well, I think that's a question better asked to some other folks. From a Halifax point of view, Halifax, although COVID seemed to put a freeze on everything, we had a lot of development and construction happen in Halifax during COVID. A lot of buildings went up during COVID, and I think a lot of infrastructure has been improved during COVID as well, and it'll be tested. And it won't be just tested today, it'll be tested in storms to come. And I think the message to people here is we're going to get hit. I think we're ready. I know from being in this emergency operations center with our folks, with the provincial government, the federal government is here, Nova Scotia Power, Red Cross, all the environmental agencies. Like, there is a great deal of competence here. Yeah, we're going to get hit. We have good people keeping us safe and protecting us.
Okay, so you're telling people to get ready. You're going to get hit. You're telling them not to go chasing selfies and chasing waves and doing anything reckless. Is there one final big point you'd like to drive home to the people of Halifax and Nova Scotia before Fiona makes landfall on Saturday?
Yeah, it would be, David, that we need to take care of each other. And, if you can help somebody out now before the storm hits later tonight, do that. But after the storm, if there's somebody in your neighborhood that needs a hand clearing off their property or they need some food, there are people to whom, losing in a power outage, losing your food is really inconvenient. There's other people to whom it's an absolute catastrophe. So let's try to help each other out. That's how we do it down here. You know that. Yep. And we'll get through this. It is going to be a tough weekend. We're going to come out of it.
All right. Mayor Mike Savage, stay safe, and I hope it's not as bad as we all think. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, with Hurricane Fiona less than 600 kilometers away, all Atlantic provinces are on alert. Areas along the southwest coast of Newfoundland could see up to 100 millimeters of rain over the next few days as Fiona makes her way up the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Port aux Basques could see the highest water levels on record. And to tell us more on how that community is preparing, we're joined by Port aux Basques Mayor Brian Button. Mayor Button, we always seem to talk to you when bad weather's headed your way. I mean, how worried are you right now for Port aux Basques?
Well, this one has the recipe, I suppose, to especially what we're seeing. It could be a rough one, and I am really concerned with this one, especially with the wind and the impact and the storm surges, the water surges and stuff. That gives me even more than, say, 10 months ago with the storms that we had then. I'm more worried about this and the impact that this could have.
Well, that one 10 months ago, I mean, that took out roads. You were cut off from the rest of the island for a while. I mean, why do you think this one could be so much worse?
Well, the reason why I think this is the last storm that we had, we had a lot of rain. There's no doubt about it. We had major washouts. We were cut off, and that was all extremely difficult at that time. But we didn't have the winds that this storm is calling for. We didn't have that, and we never had the tidal surges and those type things that we're looking at. So living along the coastline, our community, we have homes all along the coastline here, and we've seen in the past where we've had storm surges and the devastation that caused in the past on a couple of storms. So it always gives us a lot of concern. I know there's a lot of anxiety between our residents that live in these areas. They're worried what this means and what could be going on. So I too share with their worries, and we're just hopeful that it will be lesser once it does reach landfall.
Right. So last time, I mean, the damage to the infrastructure was pretty severe. And that takes a long time to rebuild from. And that was, 10 months ago? I mean, have you even got everything put back together yet in preparation for this one?
No, that is from a town's perspective. That is probably one of our most, our biggest concerns. We've had since the last storm, we had to file applications under the disaster funds and for our infrastructure that we had damaged in the last storm, and that's been through the provincial government now for quite a while, and we still don't have approvals on that. So that's left some of this stuff vulnerable to this storm, where we're hopeful that it won't sustain more damage and causes more problems. So I know our MHA has been working very hard to get this through and to get this done, but we're not there, and so that type of stuff that's giving us some major concern on what could happen to what's already been damaged. How much more damage can it take?
Right. So I want to follow up on that. And MHA, by the way, for people from mainland Canada, is a member of the House of Assembly, the Newfoundland representatives. But, Mr. Mayor, your MHA, Andrew Parsons, he's a senior cabinet minister in this government. I mean, any explanation as to why you wouldn't kind of have things put back together to be ready for stuff like this? Because construction seasons only last so long, and every September there's storms coming up from the Caribbean.
Well, I know that he's had the file, and he's been trying to work it through the departments in there, and he's been pushing it for us. But I guess that's not his department, and I guess like any other MHA, he's going to go through a process. And just because he's a senior minister, I guess that doesn't give him the opportunity to have it done. But in saying that, it's been in. I agree, it's been in quite a while now, and it needs to be. It should have been dealt with by now. And we should have been able to have this started. But, we've tried to still, from our own town crews, we've still tried to go around to these systems, make as best preparations as we can. Like, a lot of our infrastructure is vulnerable, even the stuff that wasn't damaged is vulnerable because it's all on the shoreline. And so that's a big concern for us right now.
Is that the number one thing that worries you at the moment? I know you take preparations to batten down the hatches. You tell people to get food and water and charge their devices and have batteries and emergency kits. But is it just that, the vulnerability for your infrastructure? Is that the big worry for you right now, Mayor Button?
No, that's not no? My biggest worry. I mean, yes, I am worried about that, and we are worried about that as a town. But my biggest worry is for the residents of our area. Right. We live in a small rural, for the rest of Canada that want to know, this is a small rural community that has an aging population, of course. We have a lot of seniors here. We have a lot of people that'll be listening to your shows that live in other areas across this country, and they have loved ones back here living in the community. I'm worried about them because, not having some family members in the community, and, they're worried in their homes of this type of wind. And if we run into power outages, if we run into some destruction, if things like that happen, I'm worried about them more of what we can do for them in the event that we do see, some things happen that's off the destruction side of things.
Right. Seniors that live alone near the shoreline may not be able to handle what gets thrown at their house, and people may not be able to get to them to help them. That's the sort of very specific vulnerability you have because of the low-lying way the town is built and just the age of the people who live there.
Yeah, and that gives us the most concern. But we've had meetings today where we have particular we call warming stations, but we have places within the community from all over in different spots of the community that if we run into these problems, we've talked about how we can try to transport them and try to move people. We'll have people in our offices that you can call if we need to get people from point A to point B. We'll try to do so. But the big thing here is like any place, when this type of stuff happens, neighbors help neighbors. And this is what I'm calling upon today, is neighbors to watch out for one another and to do what you can for your neighbor and try to help them out. And if there's anything that, we can do, and it's one of these things, we don't have enough resources to handle some of the things that could happen. I'm not saying they're going to happen, but if they did happen, our resources will only stretch so far. We are prepared to the best that we can, right from all the people that service, right from Newfoundland Power down. But, at this particular time, if we have those type of winds, we also have to be careful of the safety of all the people that are out trying to do the repairs and look after the people in the community.
And Mayor Button, before we let you go, I understand it's your birthday today. I don't know if you're going to have a party. I'm sure you didn't expect Fiona to crash it. I hope the next 24 hours, I hope you're spared a little bit of this. Hopefully it misses, if that's possible.
Yeah, that would be probably if you're blowing out a candle and someone says, "What's your wish?" My only wish today is that this storm will not treat my community and cause problems for the people that live in it and the surrounding communities around us. I hope that it doesn't have the impact that it possibly could.
Okay, Brian Button, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.